This video is brought to you by Squarespace. As I'm recording this video, Fernando Alonso is less than 2 weeks away from turning 40 years old. However, despite that, the saying that age is just a number really does seem to be ringing true, as Fernando Alonso just seems to be building momentum and getting more and more comfortable in the Alpine as the season has gone on, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. But in the twilight of Fernando's career, what is his ceiling over the next few years? And after what was perceived as a very controversial comeback to the sport, has he justified his return? And if given the car, could he still win a world championship against the very best drivers on the grid? It's very interesting looking back retrospectively at the level of negativity and also backlash in a way that Renault was subjected to when they first announced that it would be Fernando Alonso who would replace Daniel Ricciardo for 2021 instead of another current driver or even one of their drivers from their driver academy. It doesn't take long to find articles, blogs, and tweets from people who thought that Alonso had no place in F1 anymore, and in fact, here is a simple poll from 2020 that was done by racefans.net, simply asking if people agree with Fernando Alonso returning to the sport. Unsurprisingly, the majority of the votes landed on strongly disagree, and so heading into this season, there was real pressure on Fernando Alonso's shoulders to not just do well, score some points, and be relatively decent against Esteban Ocon. He needed to justify Renault's decision to bring him back at the risk of the team being under fire with a massive amount of criticism and negativity. After 10 races, Fernando Alonso currently sits in 11th in the championship on 26 points, in between Seb, who grabbed a handful of points with that podium in Baku, and Lance, who actually has been a little bit unlucky on a few occasions but has been relatively consistent. His teammate Esteban Ocon is just behind Lance in the standings, and in terms of the race and quali comparisons, it's currently 6-4 to Alonso in quali and 5-5 during the races. There is no doubt that Fernando Alonso had a rough start in the first few races, despite a pretty impressive performance on his F1 return in Bahrain before he had to retire because a sandwich bag got stuck in his radiator, which ironically sums up Alonso's career in a nutshell. He definitely struggled, in particular in qualifying, and even though he did say that it would take him 4 or 5 races to really get up to speed, lots of drivers say that, but then they do need to actually back it up with the results after that, and Fernando definitely has. Before we get to that, however, I do want to say a quick thank you to Squarespace, who are the sponsor of today's video. If you're looking to build your own website using an easy-to-use platform for your personal blog, your online store, or maybe even a portfolio for your work, then Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for you. You don't need any experience in web design, there is a huge amount of guidance, the interface is also very easy to use, and they have a bunch of incredible templates that you can start using right away. It only takes seconds to drag and drop the pictures that you want, change the fonts, titles, design, and color of your website, and in no time, like you can see on the screen as an example, you can have a blog ready to go. And there is even a feature that shows you what your website would look like, both on desktop and also on a phone as well. Now, if you are interested or just curious, then head over to squarespace.com and just have a play around with the web designer. You don't actually have to pay anything, it's all free to use, so you can just kind of let your creativity run wild. But then if you do want to make your website go live to the rest of the world, you can then use my code Aldas or use the link at the very top of the description to save yourself 10% on your first website or domain. So once again, a massive thank you to Squarespace. Since that poor start to the season, Alonso has been on a mad one. That P6 finish in Baku, although it might not have been as explosive as both Pierre's and Seb's podiums, that result was a springboard for Alonso to kick on, and ever since then Fernando has improved on his qualifying issues by out-qualifying Ocon in every single session, but most importantly he is currently on a 5-race point-scoring streak, which means now Fernando joins Lando as the only 2 drivers on the grid to have scored points in each of the last 5 races. Now, yes, that might be a bit of a hollow statistic, but it's still impressive, especially given that I don't think that Alpine have been that great this season, given how much promise they showed in 2020. I think for Alpine to finish 7th and for any of their drivers to maybe finish ahead of the Aston Martin drivers would be a real result, because I personally think that in terms of race pace, the AlphaTauri and even the Aston Martin are better cars. But having said that, it's not Fernando's ability to pick up points faster than he's picking up the other drivers' helmets that's been the biggest surprise. No, to me it's been his racecraft and some of the unbelievable bits of racing that we've seen from him so far. From the restart in Baku overtaking his way up to P6, to the first lap during the sprint race in Silverstone going from P11 to P5, looking back, I'd almost forgotten how good Alonso is when it comes to wheel-to-wheel racing, and even compared to his contemporaries in Seb and Lewis throughout all of their careers, he hasn't actually been involved in too many collisions and spins compared to the other two, and it's incredible to see that racecraft is still there and on full display. So yes, after 10 races and provided that he carries on improving and scoring points on a consistent basis for the rest of the season, I think his return has been justified given the position that Renault were in 2020, and at the end of the day, only he can write the narrative on whether or not Renault/Alpine as they are now made the right decision. As a driver, fans, journalists can speculate, judge you, and create a narrative about you in whatever ways they want, but it's your performances on the track that actually do the real talking and silence away the critics. That is what Alonso has managed to do, and it's interesting how in 2021 he has single-handedly driven away the narrative of should he even be in Formula 1. However, all of that is great, and as someone who always believed in Alonso to come back and pick up right where he left off, I'm not overly surprised to see him finally get back to hopefully his best. But Fernando Alonso did not come back to just mess about, score a few points, and help Alpine finish 7th or 6th on a good day. He came back because he still believed that he had the speed, the motivation, and the ability to win races and possibly challenge for one last championship. In 2018, he didn't just leave McLaren because he wasn't quick enough. On the contrary, he literally carried the team against Van Dorn. He left because he didn't feel happy or motivated enough to race at the back of the grid when he knew that with his talent, he could achieve so much more. Now that he has come back and is mentally revitalized, the big question is he still good enough to challenge the real top dogs for the championship, which of course in 2022 will be drivers like Hamilton, Verstappen, and Leclerc? That is the real question. Obviously from the Alpine side, this entire conversation, just like with every single driver, depends on what car they are given in 22. But taking the car aspect out of it for a second because no one knows who's going to be where, how does Alonso compare right now to the current title protagonists and the breakout future stars? After his performances and knowing Alonso like I do, his speed, racecraft and consistency really does make me wonder, given a car like a McLaren or maybe even a Mercedes, which hasn't even been the best car this year, how close would he be to the likes of Lando and Lewis respectively, and how would he match up at the age of almost 40 against Lewis and Max in a title battle? When it comes to his racecraft and his F1 IQ, I still believe that he could be right up there with the likes of Lewis and Max, and certainly I am confident enough to say that if we put Bottas, Checo and Alonso all in the same car, my money would be on Fernando probably 9 times out of 10. I think the only thing that would hold him back is that raw pace that is needed during qualifying. Max and Lewis have shown that between them you'll only ever really get one overtaking opportunity in a race, and even then it can get pretty close, and after that they are both ice cold under pressure. That means that qualifying is more important than ever before, and that would be the only thing that I think might hold Alonso back. Fernando is a great qualifier, but unlike his racecraft, I wouldn't rank his raw quali pace to be on the same level as both Lewis and Max. Having said that, with Fernando, his entire career all comes back to the phrase, if given a good enough car. He has not had that for a long time, and although dragging midfield cars to good results is impressive, I wouldn't put it past him to improve his quali pace and get it all together for one last title challenge if Alpine could somehow give him a car that is either capable of race wins or even a dominant car in 2022. Although there will still be questions around Fernando and Alpine with regards to what they are going to do with so many great young drivers in their driver academy looking to get into F1, but at the same time having Alonso perform so well and also signing Ocon to a longer term contract, all of those questions will need to be answered by them. But for Fernando, he is back, and to me, I will never count him out if he is given a car that can even sniff at the smallest title challenging opportunity. I've seen him do it in worse, and Alonso has proven time and time again that you can never, ever count him out. So there you have it. I hope you did enjoy this video. Don't forget to let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below. And once again, a massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. If you guys would like to save 10% off your first website or domain, don't forget to use my code Aldas or use the link at the very top of the description. So once again, a massive thank you to Squarespace. And don't forget, if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to drop a like and smash that subscribe button to support the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.